Sulfuric acid can be considered a useful substance when it's handled properly. It can aid in the manufacture of many things, including fertilizers, dyes, and detergents. Now, let's say that somehow someone got a hold of some concentrated sulfuric acid, and for whatever reason decided to take a big old drink. What do you think would happen? Well, first it would burn your mouth, and it would burn your throat. Then it'll probably erode a hole right through your stomach before it kills you. Sounds pretty intense, right? Well, a man named John George Haigh knows a thing or two about what this acid can do to a human body, and I am here to tell you about some of the horrific things that this person has done. Born July 24th, 1909, in Stamford, Lincolnshire, England, and raised in the village of Outwood, West Riding of Yorkshire, John Haigh had a relatively normal childhood and was considered to be intelligent. But he also claimed that as a young child he would experience reoccurring religious nightmares, but this was really the only odd thing out as a kid. He went on to learn about how to play the piano and found a deep love of classical music. Haigh even won a scholarship to Queen Elizabeth Grammar School, Wakefield, then went to Wakefield Cathedral. After school, he would spend his time as an apprentice under some motor engineers, and after about a year, he left and took jobs in insurance and advertising. However, at 21 years old, he was relieved from his position under alleged theft. On July 6, 1934, Haigh, 25 years old at the time, would marry 23-year-old Betty Hammer. The marriage turned rocky relatively quickly, with Betty giving birth to their child while he was in prison for fraud. Not having a say in the matter, Haigh was disappointed to learn that his wife had given up their child for adoption. Haigh's family did not like this and ostracized him from the family because of it. After Haigh was released from prison, he moved to London in 1936 and took a job as a chauffeur to a wealthy amusement arcade owner. From here, Haigh got the bright idea to pretend to be a man named William Adamson with offices in several places around the local area. Here, he sold fraudulent stock shares from the estates of his deceased clients at below market rates. His scam was uncovered by a simple spelling mistake that he made to the name on his letterhead. So, as I'm sure you guessed, now he's back in prison for fraud. Haigh was released just after the beginning of World War II. He continued his fraudulent ways and went back to prison several more times after this. This is when he started regretting that he had ever left any witnesses or victims alive that could accuse him. He became intrigued with the French killer Georges Seurat, who had disposed of bodies using sulfuric acid. Haigh quickly discovered that he could dissolve a field mouse in the stuff within only 30 minutes. Shortly after being freed from prison in 1943, Haigh bumped into his former employer. Remember the guy he was a chauffeur for? Well, his name was William McSwan. And when he bumped into him, they were in a pub where McSwan introduced Haigh to his parents. Haigh began to become envious of his former boss's lifestyle, so on September 6, 1944, McSwan disappeared. Haigh later admitted that he had lured McSwan into a basement, hit him over the head with a lead pipe, and then put his body into a 40-gallon drum that was filled with concentrated sulfuric acid. 2 days later, finding that McSwan's body was mostly dissolved, Haigh emptied the drum into what he called a manhole. So, totally not being suspicious at all, Haigh told McSwan's parents that their son was hiding in Scotland to avoid being called for military service. Then Haigh basically fell into McSwan's role by moving into his house and collecting rent on behalf of the family business. July 2nd, 1945, Haigh told McSwan's parents that he had returned from Scotland for a surprise visit. So, of course, they were excited and didn't even hesitate to follow Haigh down into the same basement that McSwan, their son, had met his demise not even a year earlier. As I'm sure you have figured out, Haigh then proceeded to kill and dispose of their bodies. Haigh then took their pension checks and sold the family properties. From here, Haigh killed other people for the same motive: money. But if I were to explain every act of violence that Haigh had committed throughout the years, we'd be here all night, so let's just move on. In 1949, detectives were hot on Haigh's trail after they discovered his history of theft and fraud. They decided to search the workshop, and this is where they found papers and documentation suggesting that Haigh had taken over their lives. So, where did the victims end up? Well, Haigh, after doing his best to dissolve his victims in acid, would take the remains to the back of the property and would pour the contents of the container on a pile of rubble. Discovered was 28 pounds of human body fat, part of a human foot, human gallstones, and part of a denture that was later identified to belong to one of the many victims of Haigh. Haigh tried to plead insanity, claiming that he enjoyed drinking the blood of his victims, referring back to his religious nightmares as a young boy. He made any claim that he could to try to get insanity and get out of having to pay for his actions. Turns out that Haigh believed that no body meant no murder, but it only took the jury mere minutes to find Haigh guilty and sentence him to death. On August 10th, 1949, they gave Haigh one last glass of brandy right before he was hung for his crimes. What do you think of this insane case? Let me know in the comments below, and please like and subscribe to help out this channel. Thank you very much for watching. Good night.